like a little bird squeak. Amen. Tender heartbeats, sincerity repeats. The rhythm of the sacred dance, rising cadence. When it comes to the trumpet sound and mountain wheels, time to come undone. The choir sings the holy song of how long the I belong to. The trumpet sounding in a blaze of glory, telling the holy story. The trumpet that the wind has been ignoring, our text soaring. The blast that knocked the world on this decade, and tell the world the working from this dusty. No, it's not a popular song, but it's the one that brings to heaven. I am one. Hallelujah, the angels sing. The triumph of the Holy Queen. The dawn is here for his son. Now he rises, giving as we know. Oh, now I hear the sun in the wind. Don't it sound sweet like a little bird sing? Amen. Tender heartbeat, sincerity. The rhythm of the sacred dance, rising cadence. The freedom of heaven. When it comes to the trumpet sound and I get real time to come on down, the choir sings the holy song of hallelujah. I belong to the trumpet sound and the blaze of glory, telling the holy story. The trumpet that the word has been ignoring, also lost to it. I am soaring. Was it not the word against that deep? Into the way awakened from destiny. No, it's not a popular song. It's the one that brings to heaven. I am wrong. Hallelujah. The triumph of the Holy Queen. The darkness hid us down. Mary blessed. I hear the sound in the wind. Yes, I hear the trumpet sound. Yes, fabulous, fabulous, Mother. So, thank you. Thank you, Mother. I hear the trumpet sound. Lift up your heads, discouraged and downtrodden Ethiopians. Listen to this marvelous story told of your ancestors who wrought mightily for man and built the foundations of civilization true and square in the days of old. Awake, ye sleepy Aryans, become aware of the acute need of the world today of this enchained energy and ability. The absence of this power is the cause of many a breakdown in modern civilization. Out of our own accepted scientists, the chapters of this reciting prove the Kushite race to have been the fountainhead of civilization. The Kushite race, its institutions, customs, laws, and ideals were the foundation upon which our modern culture was laid. Let this not stir the pride of the modern Kushite, but rather inspire him to a greater consecration to the high idealism that made the masteries of olden days. And these are excerpts out of The Wonderful Ethiopian of the Cushite by Ursula Dungy Houston. In most modern books, there seems to be a preconcerted understanding to culminate and discuss the world with abominable pictures of the ruined Ethiopian, ruined by the African slave trade of 400 years. There seems to be a worldwide conspiracy in literature to conceal the fact that this book, The Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Cushite, unfolds. Because of this suppression of truth, world crimes have been easily made possible against the Ethiopian. These people are held in low estimation because truth is hidden, which proves that today, the more favored races are at the apex of human accomplishment. Yet in the earlier ages, the will of destiny carried upward those who now seem hopelessly under. To wipe away the stain of the slave trade, modern literature has represented the slave trader as having trafficked in depraved human beings. And when I say the slave trade, because so many people think, we were, brought from Africa to the Americas when it was in reverse, it would be easier to, just if that was the case, and there's millions of people already here, why not just enslave them here on their own land, versus go, and try to bring somebody back, across an ocean. So, this is the information age, and it's time for us to wake up and get our dignity and our pride, So the Ethiopian is a great race, probably the oldest. It is a race that does not die out under adversity. When other races, I don't like to use races, when other cultures are sullen or despairing and turn to self-destruction, our people cheerfully press on. When you think the way is blocked, they turn aside to pick flowers along the pathway of pleasure. Proof of evidence. Any student who doubts the truth about Ethiopia, go through these and others. You will find ample evidence in such works as The Voice of Africa by Leo Frobenius, Prehistoric Nations and Ancient America by John D. Baldwin, Rivers of Life by Major General J.G.R. Forlong, A Book of Beginnings by Gerald Massey, Children of the Sun and the Growth of Civilization by W.J. Perry, The Negro by Professor W.E.B. Du Bois, The Anacalypsis by Sir Geoffrey Higgins, Isis Unveiled by Madame H.P. Blavatsky, The Diffusion of Culture by Sir Graham Elliot Smith, The Mediterranean Race by Professor Sergi, The Ruins of Empires by Colt Boehme, The Races of Europe by Professor William J. Zipley, and last but not least, the brilliant monographs of Mr. Maynard Shipley, New Light on Prehistoric Cultures and Americans of a Million Years Age. So, John G. Jackson, A Critical Review of the Evidence of Archaeology, Anthropology, History, and Comparative Religion, according to the most reliable sources and authorities, dated 1939. Egypt in those early years was under Ethiopian dominion In proof of this fact, the Cyclopedia of Biblical Literature says Isaiah often mentions Ethiopia and Egypt in close political relations. In fine, the name of Ethiopia chiefly stood as the name of the national and royal family of Egypt. In the beginning, Egypt was ruled from Ethiopia. The Greek accounts say, although the Iliad and the Odyssey contain the earliest known use of the word Ethiopia, because we are the Cushites, and that the Ethiopians were well known in the Aegean Sea hundreds years before Homer, it will be to accept Sir E.A. Budge's that Homer invented the name Ethiopia or Ethiopians. A poet says about the vastness of Ethiopia, a race divided, whom the sloping rays, the rising and the setting sun surveys. And that's William Lew Hansberry, Africans and Africans, 1981. The Celts, the religion of Buddha of India, is well known to have been very ancient. And we are referring here to the first Buddha, who is supposed to have lived between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago, and not to Gautama Buddha, who lived about 600 years BC. There were at least 10 Buddhas mentioned in the sacred books of India. Who these could have been but the early individuals of the Black nation, of whom we have been treating, I know not, and in this opinion I am not singular. The learned Maurice of Kuthis, or the Cushites, i.e. Celts, built the great temples in India and Britain, and excavated the caves of the former. And the learned mathematicians Reuben Burrow has no hesitation in announcing Stonehenge to be a temple of the black curly-haired Buddha. Anacalypsis, Volume 1, Book 1, Chapter 4. And a critical review of this evidence of archaeological anthropology, history, and comparative religion according to the most reliable sources and authorities by John G. Jackson, and that's 1939. No. Yeah, 1939. Asia. Asia, another great nation of Ethiopian origin, was Elam, a country which stretched from the Tigris River to the Zagros Mountains of Persia. Its capital was the famous city of Susa, which was founded about 4000 BC and flourished from that date to its destruction by Muslim invaders about the year 650 CE. We read of Memnon, king of Ethiopia, a great mythology, to be exact, in Homer's Iliad, where he led an army of Elamites and Ethiopians to the assistance of the king Priam in the Trojan War. His expedition is said to have started from the African Ethiopia and to have passed through Ethiopia on the way to Troy. India. I should turn my heat off before I was. Since the original Indus Valley inhabitants, the Dravidians, were Ethiopians, and the Ethiopians were the sisters and brothers of the Egyptians, then all symbols used by a family originated at the root, which is Africa, where the family is complete. India. The original so-called Indians from the Indus Valley were Ethiopians who were, while in Africa, the parents of the Egyptian. They are the Dravidian black people. Africa encompasses a vast area, and the sun never set where an African did not live and bring civilization. And that's the swastika by Elo Ekowa Kenyatta, India. Even the Hindu is Ethiopian. Ancient records of authority may Hind and Sind, son of Cush. The separation of India from the parent Kushite stock was in ages long before the rise of the so-called Aryans in India. The older Greeks always associated the sacred waves of the Indian Sea with the wonderful Ethiopian. Ephorus stated that they occupied all the southern coast of Asia and Africa. The name India, sorry. Let me just touch one little thing wrong in the home screen and just go. Sorry. I don't know why it keeps jumping back down. Wants to go ahead. Pause. The name India means black, and Condor thinks that it was employed only to designate the home of the Asiatic Ethiopians. Persia. Another great nation of Ethiopian origin was Elam, a country which stretched from the Tigris River to the Zagros Mountains of Persia. Its capital was the famous city of Susa, which was founded about 4000 BC and flourished from that date to its destruction by Muslim invaders about the year. Oh my God. It's a lot, so I couldn't just write it all down, so I'm trying to just, use my phone. It flourished from the dates its destruction by Muslim invaders about the year 650 CE, Christian era. And speaking of the Elamites, H.G. Wells, H.H. Johnson says to have been Negroid in type. There is a strong Negroid strain in the modern people of Elam. Outline of History, page 166. Archaeological evidence favors this view. Reginald Poole, the English Egyptologist, noted, there is one portrait of an Elamite or Cushite king on a vase found in Susa. He is painted black and his belongings to the Cushite race, quoted by Professor Alfred C. Hutton in his History of Anthropology, page 6, London, 1936. Thinker's Library Edition, published by Watson Company, and now blah, blah, blah. Babylon and astronomy. Babylon had two elements of her population in the beginning. The northerner Akkadians, the southerner Sumerians, Cushites. The Sumerians gave the constellations of the heavens the name of the old kings of the ancient empire of Ethiopians, their ancestors. Both were Cushites. The Babylonians were planet worshippers, and they assumed telling fates of people by looking at the stars. The Americas. Though it is generally believed that Columbus discovered America, it is now definitely known to students of American archaeology that Columbus came late. Professor Leo Weiner has written in 3 volume work Africa and the Discovery of Americas, in which he agrees that the New World was discovered by Africans long before the time of Columbus. The celebrated French archaeologist Desiree Charnay unearthed statues around Mexico City more than 50 years ago, with faces showing Negroid features. Pictures of some of them may be seen in Ignatius Donnelly's Atlantis, page 174 through 175. Donnelly also has illustrations of 2 similar statues, one from Palenque and the other from Veracruz, finding that the Indians show both Mongoloid and Negroid ethnic races. Charnay justly concluded that the Americans were a mixed race of both Asiatic and African ancestry. We have perfectly reliable proof of the presence of men of Ethiopian race in the pre-Columbian America. The Americas. From America, the story turns to the Bronze and Iron Ages. We seek the origin of the mysterious bronze implements of Western Europe, found in the hands of seemingly barbarous people. We seek for the place and the culture that could have given the world the art of welding iron. The trail reveals that the land of the Golden Fleece and the garden of the golden apples of Hesperides were but wonderful Ethiopians of the ancient Kushite Empire, centers of the ancient race, that as Kushite Ethiopians had extended themselves over the world. This series closes with a comparison of ancient culture with modern forms. The intelligence of the Kushite has original genius, is held up beside the decadence of true ideals in the art and literature of the present. Atlantis. 2 German scholars, Eugene George is a keen student of the Atlantis question. The new age that began after the disappearance of Atlantis was marked at first by the worldwide dominance of Ethiopian representatives of the black culture. They were supreme in Africa and Asia, and they even infiltrated through southern Europe. During the present era, that is the last 10,000 years, the Albion race has come to possess the world. According to occult tradition, Semitic people developed wherever the immigrating white colonists from the north were subjugated by the black ruling class. An intermixture occurred as in oldest Egypt, Chaldea, Arabia, and Phoenicia. And that's from The Adventure of Mankind by Eugene George, page 121, 122, New York, 1931. Atlantis II. Another division of Atlantis was transatlantic America. There, the mysterious mound builders represent the ancient Kushite race. We study the peculiar culture and genius of the fierce Aztec, who acknowledged that he received the germ of civilization from the earlier Kushite inhabitants. We pass southward and examine the higher development of the wonderful Mayas of North America, whose ruins are attracting special study today, and we find there transplanted the Kushite arts of the ancient world. Atlantis III. Professor Rafael Riquelme, a Venezuelan archaeologist, holds that there is an island in the Atlantic Ocean of continental dimensions known to ancients as Atlantis, that this island was settled by Ethiopians who established colonies in America before the submergence of Atlantis. Atlantis was connected with the history of ancient Ethiopia. There can be little doubt. the Greek philosopher Proclus, stated in his work that the present evidence that Atlantis at one time actually existed. He cited authority for Ethiopian history of Marcellus. Referring to Ethiopian history to prove the existence of Atlantis, Proclus infers that Atlantis was part of Ethiopia. It says, see Corey's ancient fragments of the Phoenician, Carthaginian, Babylonian, the Egyptian, and other authors. Also see Maynard Shipley's New Light on Prehistoric Cultures and Bramwell's Lost Atlantis. Although there is scientific evidence that the island of continental dimensions once existed in what is now the Atlantic Ocean, many students of the problem of Atlantis have said in other parts of the globe, have it located in other parts of the globe, particularly in Central America and Africa. Atlantis 4. In the chapter on ancient Kushite commerce, we follow the ship of these early, daring, and skillful seamen who, before the dawn of history, had blazed out the ocean trail that the Phoenicians later followed. We find irrefutable evidence of the presence of these daring conquerors in the primitive language, religion, and institutions of America. Next, out of the dim haze of far antiquity, the indistinct lines of Atlantis of old, the race that gave civilization to the world, that race that tamed the animals and gave us domestication of plants. The gods of the ancient world were the kings and queens of mystics. Atlantis. The chapter, The Gods of Old, makes plain that the deities of Greece and Rome were also the kings and queens of the ancient Kushite Empire of the Ethiopians, which was either the successor of the most famous branch of the Atlantic race. It was about these princes and heroes that all the wonderful mythology of the ancients were woven. Astronomy. The Ethiopians were the first who invented the science of stars and gave names to the planets, not at random and without meaning, but descriptive of the qualities which they conceived them to possess. And it was from them and this that passed, still an imperfect state, to the Egyptians. Okay, we're getting a little long because I got a whole nother, but I'm going to put this on this one. The constellation, the myth. The constellation Cepheus, the king of Ethiopia, and Cassiopeia's husband in Greek mythology. Zeus placed him in the sky after his tragic death because he was descended from one of Zeus' loves, the nymph Io. Cepheus ruled not the modern-day Ethiopia, but the stretch of land between the southeastern Mediterranean I really am having a hard time. I don't know why it keeps jumping like this. Okay, the constellation represents Cepheus. Okay, so He ruled, but the stretch of land between the southeastern Mediterranean and the Red Sea, the area that contains parts of modern-day Ethiopia, Egypt, Israel, and Jordan. Cepheus' wife, Cassiopeia, was a very vain woman. Once she boasted that she and her daughter, Andromeda, I've told this one so many times. So I'm not going to go over that. I've told about, Zeus threw her, in the sky. She hangs on her throne upside down, and her, daughter Andromeda was chained to the rod, and that's where the Jonah story comes, where the whale, you know, but in this tale, the whale is her punishment. She's supposed to get eaten by the whale, and Cepheus comes and rescues her, and so then she ends up marrying Cepheus, and then they're at a banquet at the wedding feast, and Andromeda had been promised to another person, and he showed up at the wedding feast, and him and his gang were gonna I guess take her, and so Perseus was gonna defend her, but he was outnumbered, so he pulled out the head of Gorgon Medusa, which turns people to stone. And Cassiopeia and Cepheus didn't look away in time enough, and they were turned to stone also, and I'm probably not going to do it today, but when I show you some of these temples, in beautiful temples in, in Asia, you're just going to love it. But I wanted to add, this is from a website, the Luciferian, Satanic, Illuminati, and Sabadian Frankist. Okay. So I wanted to show you the Saturnian, the Satan tree. I felt like it was important. Look at him. I feel like it was important to do it today because, today is Saturday, and to show you their science, why they announced the presidency today, because of their system. Okay. I'll put the name of the website in the description box so you can look it up on your own time. But this is just some of the information I wanted to put on here today because, like I said, they're doing their thing. It just shows, there's no secrets. I've had this information for some time now, so it's like, okay, what you gotta do? Mother is aware of everything. But there was, at one time, I had did a discussion on this is so crazy.
I had did when I did my real discussion, and yeah, I think somebody just kind of questioned me about Aldebaran when I told them that that chick didn't go to Aldebaran because there is no Aldebaran, and so I just wanted to. I don't know why it's not letting me. Because it's like only giving me like half the page. Okay, here we go. I don't know. That was my. But that this is why I said about like, okay, if you're spiritual minded, you can't serve two masters. If they're using sex to as a weapon to enslave the masses, that energy, how you can you can't use it for your pleasure, just because you think or you feel a certain kind of way about it. It doesn't mean that it's not a satanic practice. And so